The school bell rang, signaling the start of another day at Maplewood Middle School. 14-year-old Malik Johnson stood outside the gates, clutching his backpack tightly as he took in the scene before him. The sprawling brick building looked welcoming enough, with its neatly trimmed hedges and colorful banners fluttering in the breeze. But to Malik, it felt like stepping into unknown territory. This was his first day at a new school, a place where everyone already seemed to know each other. Malik had moved to this small suburban town just 2 weeks ago when his father accepted a job transfer. It wasn't easy leaving behind everything familiar: his old neighborhood, his best friends, and even his karate dojo, where he'd spent countless hours perfecting his craft under the watchful eye of his grandfather. His grandfather, a retired martial arts champion, had taught him not only how to throw a punch or execute a flawless kick, but also the importance of patience, respect, and self-control. These lessons were etched deep into Malik's heart, though few people knew about them. As Malik made his way through the crowded hallways, he couldn't help but feel like all eyes were on him. He was one of only a handful of black students in the entire school, and his rich brown skin stood out against the sea of pale faces around him. Some kids glanced at him curiously, while others whispered behind their hands. A boy with shaggy blonde hair bumped into him deliberately, muttering something under his breath that Malik pretended not to hear. "Names go here," said a cheerful voice from behind him. Malik turned to see a girl holding a clipboard. She smiled warmly and pointed to her shirt, which read, "Welcome Committee." "I'm Sarah," she said brightly. "What's your name?" "Malik," he replied softly, shifting his weight from one foot to the other. "Well, welcome to Maplewood, Malik," Sarah chirped before hurrying off to greet someone else. Her kindness gave Malik a tiny spark of hope, but it faded quickly as he entered his homeroom class. The room fell silent as he walked in, every pair of eyes fixed on him. The teacher introduced him briefly, but no one clapped or smiled. Instead, there were smirks and murmurs, things he couldn't quite catch but could feel in the air. During lunch, Malik sat alone at the far end of the cafeteria. He pulled out his sandwich and tried to focus on eating, ignoring the curious glances darting his way. Then a group of loud, laughing boys approached his table. They were led by Tyler, a tall, broad-shouldered 8th grader who strutted around like he owned the school. Tyler wore a varsity jacket and carried himself with an air of superiority that made others either admire or fear him. "Hey, new kid," Tyler said, leaning casually against the table. "What's your deal? You don't talk much, huh?" Malik looked up but didn't respond. He wasn't used to being the center of attention, especially not like this. Tyler smirked and nudged his friends. "Maybe he thinks he's too cool for us." The teasing began innocently enough, a comment about Malik's sneakers, then his haircut, but it quickly turned mean-spirited. One of the boys mimicked an exaggerated accent, causing the group to burst into laughter. Malik clenched his fists under the table, feeling heat rise in his chest. But he remembered what his grandfather always said: "True strength isn't shown by lashing out. It's shown by staying calm when others try to provoke you." When they knocked his tray off the table, sending his food tumbling to the floor, Malik simply stood up, grabbed his bag, and walked away. As he left, he heard Tyler call after him, "Yeah, run away, loser." Though his heart pounded and his cheeks burned, Malik kept walking. He didn't want to give them the satisfaction of seeing him upset. Little did they know, beneath his calm exterior lay years of training and discipline. And someday soon, they would learn exactly who Malik Johnson really was. The next day at school, Malik tried to keep his head down and avoid drawing attention to himself. He arrived early, hoping to slip into class unnoticed, but whispers followed him wherever he went. Some students stared openly, while others snickered as he passed by. It was clear that Tyler and his friends had already spread stories about the new kid, painting him as an easy target for ridicule. During gym class, things took a turn for the worse. The teacher divided the students into teams for a game of dodgeball, and Malik found himself paired with Tyler's group. At first, it seemed like any other game. Balls flew back and forth across the court. Laughter echoed through the gym, and everyone was having fun. But then Tyler caught Malik's eye and smirked. Without warning, Tyler hurled a ball straight at Malik's chest with more force than necessary. The impact knocked the wind out of him, and the entire team erupted in laughter. "Watch out, new kid," Tyler called out mockingly. "You're gonna get wrecked if you can't handle this." Malik bent over, catching his breath. But he didn't say a word. He picked up a ball and tossed it gently toward the opposing team, intentionally missing them. His quiet demeanor only fueled their amusement. One of Tyler's friends shouted, "What's wrong, scared?" Too chicken to fight back. By the end of the period, Malik's patience was wearing thin. He hated being laughed at, but he reminded himself why he couldn't retaliate. Martial arts weren't just about fighting. They were about control. Still, every laugh and jeer felt like a weight pressing down on him. When the bell rang, signaling the end of class, Malik hurried to change back into his regular clothes, eager to escape the suffocating atmosphere of the locker room. But Tyler wasn't done yet. As Malik grabbed his backpack from his locker, he noticed a folded piece of paper taped to the metal door. Unfolding it carefully, he saw crude drawings of stick figures labeled Malik getting pummeled by someone labeled Tyler. Below the picture, scrawled in bold letters, were the words, "Go back where you came from." For a moment, Malik froze. His hands trembled slightly as he crumpled the note and stuffed it into his pocket. He wanted to confront Tyler, to demand answers, but instead, he forced himself to take a deep breath. He knew reacting impulsively would only make things worse. Instead, he focused on putting one foot in front of the other, heading toward his next class. Later that afternoon, during science lab, Malik partnered with Emily, a shy girl who rarely spoke to anyone. She had long, wavy brown hair and glasses that she constantly pushed up her nose. While most students avoided sitting near Malik, Emily didn't seem bothered by the rumors swirling around him. In fact, she greeted him warmly when he sat down beside her. "You okay?" she asked quietly after noticing his distant expression. Malik hesitated before nodding. "Yeah, I'm fine." Emily glanced around the room, lowering her voice even further. "I saw what happened in gym class earlier. Those guys are jerks. Don't let them get to you." Her kindness surprised him. For the first time since starting at Maplewood, someone besides his family had shown genuine concern for him. Though he didn't respond, Malik gave her a small smile, grateful for the unexpected support. As the days passed, Tyler and his crew continued their relentless teasing. They tripped Malik in the hallway, called him names, and even stole his pencil case once, tossing it around like a game of hot potato until a teacher intervened. Each incident chipped away at Malik's confidence, though he refused to show it. Inside, however, he wrestled with frustration and anger. Why wouldn't they leave him alone? One evening, after another exhausting day at school, Malik retreated to his garage. The space was dimly lit, with posters of famous martial artists tacked onto the walls and a worn wooden dummy standing in the corner. This was his sanctuary, the one place where he could release his pent-up emotions without fear of judgment. He slipped off his shoes, rolled up his sleeves, and began practicing his forms, moving with precision and grace. Each kick, punch, and block helped clear his mind, reminding him of the strength within him. As sweat dripped down his face, Malik thought about his grandfather's teachings. Martial arts weren't meant to hurt others. They were tools for self-defense and personal growth. Yet, as much as he tried to stay calm, Malik couldn't shake the feeling that something inside him was reaching its breaking point. Sooner or later, he knew he'd have to face Tyler, not because he wanted revenge, but because enough was enough. Over the next few weeks, life at Maplewood Middle School became a daily test of Malik's patience. The bullying didn't stop, it only grew worse. Tyler and his crew seemed to take pleasure in finding new ways to torment him. They would shove him into lockers as he passed by, calling him names like loser and coward. In class, they'd toss crumpled paper balls at the back of his head when the teacher wasn't looking. Even online, Malik couldn't escape their cruelty. Someone created an anonymous social media account that posted mean-spirited memes about him, mocking everything from his clothes to his quiet demeanor. Despite it all, Malik refused to fight back or complain. He knew deep down that reacting violently wouldn't solve anything. It would only give Tyler exactly what he wanted, a reason to call Malik dangerous or out of control. So instead, Malik endured the taunts in silence, keeping his emotions locked away where no one could see them. But inside, the weight of it all was starting to crush him. Every insult felt heavier than the last, and every shove left a bruise, not just on his skin, but on his spirit. At home, Malik tried to act normal around his parents. His mom noticed his withdrawn behavior during dinner one night and asked if something was wrong. "You've been so quiet lately," she said gently. "Is everything okay at school?" Malik forced a smile and shrugged. "It's fine, Mom. Just adjusting, you know." His dad chimed in. "If anyone gives you trouble, you tell us. We won't stand for bullying." "I'm handling it," Malik replied quickly, avoiding eye contact. He didn't want his parents worrying or stepping in. It would only make things worse. Besides, how could he explain to them that he had the power to stop the bullies himself, but chose not to? They might not understand why he held back. What his family didn't know was that Malik channeled his frustration into something productive. Late at night, when the house was quiet and everyone else was asleep, he retreated to the garage. There, under the soft glow of a single overhead bulb, Malik practiced martial arts with intensity. Each movement was sharp and deliberate, each strike precise. He worked through his forms over and over again, until his muscles burned and sweat soaked through his shirt. It wasn't just physical training, it was therapy. With every punch and kick, he released the anger and hurt building up inside him. By the time he finally went to bed, exhausted, he felt lighter, calmer, ready to face another day. Meanwhile, Emily continued to sit with Malik during lunch. She never pushed him to talk about what was happening, but her presence alone was comforting. One afternoon, as they sat together in the far corner of the cafeteria, she pulled out a sketch pad and began drawing quietly. After a while, she slid the pad across the table toward Malik. On it was a rough sketch of two figures standing side by side, one tall and confident, the other small and timid. Beneath it, she had written, "Even heroes need allies." Malik stared at the drawing, unsure what to say. Finally, he looked up at her and gave a faint smile. "Thanks," he murmured. Emily nodded knowingly. "I may not be able to throw a punch, but I've got your back." Her words meant more to Malik than she probably realized. For the first time since moving to Maplewood, he didn't feel completely alone. Though the bullies still surrounded him, he now had someone who saw him for who he truly was, and believed in him. But even with Emily's support, Malik couldn't ignore the growing tension between him and Tyler. The older boy seemed determined to push Malik to his breaking point. During recess one day, Tyler cornered him near the basketball court. "Hey, new kid," he sneered, blocking Malik's path. "Why don't you ever fight back? Too scared? Or are you just too lazy?" Malik clenched his fists tightly at his sides, resisting the urge to lash out. Instead, he met Tyler's gaze steadily and replied, "I don't have to prove anything to you." Tyler laughed derisively. "Oh, really? Well, maybe we should change that." With that, Tyler shoved Malik hard enough to send him stumbling backward. A few nearby students gasped, but no one stepped forward to intervene. Malik steadied himself, his heart pounding. For a split second, he considered letting go, all the pent-up anger and frustration bursting free. But then he remembered his grandfather's voice echoing in his mind. Strength is useless without control. Taking a deep breath, Malik straightened up and walked away, leaving Tyler fuming behind him. As he moved across the playground, He could hear Tyler shouting after him, "Yeah, keep running, coward." Though Malik appeared calm on the outside, inside, he knew something had shifted. The line between restraint and surrender was growing thinner with each passing day. Sooner or later, Tyler's relentless provocation would force Malik to make a choice. And when that moment came, there would. The tension between Malik and Tyler reached a boiling point one chilly afternoon in the locker room after gym class. The air smelled of damp towels and old sneakers, and the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows on the tiled floor. Most students had already changed and left, but Malik lingered, taking his time to avoid crossing paths with Tyler and his crew. Unfortunately, fate had other plans. As Malik bent down to tie his shoelaces, he heard the heavy thud of footsteps approaching. He looked up just in time to see Tyler blocking the exit, flanked by two of his friends. Their smirks told Malik everything he needed to know. This wasn't a coincidence. Tyler crossed his arms over his chest, his varsity jacket stretched tight against his broad frame, and leaned casually against the doorway. Well, Tyler drawled, his voice dripping with mockery. "Looks like we got you all alone now, new kid. No teachers around to save you this time." Malik straightened slowly, his heart pounding but his expression calm. He knew better than to show fear. It would only fuel Tyler's ego. Instead, he met the older boy's gaze steadily, his dark eyes unwavering. "What do you want, Tyler?" he asked evenly. Tyler smirked, clearly enjoying himself. "I want to see if you're as tough as you pretend to be. You walk around here acting all cool, ignoring us like you're better than everyone else. But I think you're just a scared little punk." Malik didn't respond. He stood still, his body relaxed yet alert, like a coiled spring ready to snap into action. Years of martial arts training had taught him how to read people, their movements, their intentions, and he could tell that Tyler was itching for a fight. The bully took a step closer, his confidence bolstered by the presence of his friends. "You know what I think?" Tyler continued, his tone growing louder and more aggressive. "I think you're nothing but a coward who runs away whenever things get tough." Without warning, Tyler lunged forward, swinging his fist toward Malik's face. For a split second, it seemed like the punch would land. But then Malik moved. With fluid precision, he sidestepped the blow, letting Tyler's momentum carry him past him. Tyler stumbled slightly, caught off guard by Malik's speed and agility. The two friends standing behind him exchanged confused glances, unsure what they'd just witnessed. "Whoa, hold up," one of them exclaimed. "What was that?" Tyler spun around, his face flushed with anger and embarrassment. "Don't move like that," he snapped. "Stand still and fight me like a man." But Malik didn't comply. Instead, he stayed light on his feet, keeping a safe distance between them. His movements were deliberate, controlled, a stark contrast to Tyler's wild swings. When Tyler charged again, Malik ducked under another punch and countered with a quick strike to the bully's side. It wasn't meant to hurt. It was just enough to stun him momentarily. Tyler staggered back, clutching his ribs, his mouth hanging open in disbelief. "What the? How did you do that?" Malik didn't answer. Instead, he stepped backward, creating even more space between them. His breathing was steady, his posture relaxed. He hadn't broken a sweat, while Tyler looked disoriented and winded. The two boys watching from the sidelines shifted uncomfortably, unsure whether to cheer or intervene. Finally, Tyler let out a frustrated growl. "You think you're so smart, huh? Dodging and dancing around like some kind of ninja." He raised his fists again, but this time, there was hesitation in his stance. Something about Malik's calm demeanor unnerved him. Malik shook his head slightly, his voice firm but not unkind. "I don't want to fight you, Tyler. This isn't going to solve anything." For a moment, Tyler froze, caught off guard by the unexpected response. Then, with a final glare, he stormed out of the locker room, his friends trailing awkwardly behind him. The sound of their retreating footsteps echoed through the empty hallway, leaving Malik alone with his thoughts. As he finished getting dressed, Malik couldn't help but feel a mix of relief and unease. He had proven that he could handle himself, but at what cost? Tyler wouldn't let this go quietly. Word of what happened would spread, and Malik knew it was only a matter of time before the entire school found out. Still, as he walked home that evening, he felt a flicker of pride. He had stayed true to himself, refusing to stoop to Tyler's level. And deep down, he hoped that maybe, just maybe, this would be the beginning of something bigger. News of the locker room incident spread like wildfire through Maplewood Middle School. By the next morning, it seemed like everyone was talking about it. Students huddled in clusters during homeroom, whispering excitedly and speculating about what had happened. Some claimed they'd heard Malik had beaten Tyler senseless, while others insisted Malik had used some kind of secret martial arts move to take him down. The truth, as usual, got twisted with each retelling. Tyler, humiliated by the loss, did his best to spin the story in his favor. During lunch, he gathered his friends at their usual table in the cafeteria and loudly recounted his version of events. "Yeah, he got lucky," Tyler said, slamming his fist on the table for emphasis. "But I let him off easy. Next time, I'm not holding back." His words drew skeptical looks from a few classmates who had seen how quickly Malik had dodged Tyler's attacks. Still, Tyler's confidence and his reputation as one of the toughest kids in school kept many people from questioning him too closely. He even went so far as to accuse Malik of being dangerous, spreading rumors that the new kid might snap at any moment. "You never know with these quiet types," he warned dramatically. "One day, he'll lose it and hurt someone for real." The teachers, however, weren't so quick to dismiss the situation. Word of the altercation reached Mr. Carter, the vice principal, who called both Malik and Tyler into his office later that afternoon. Sitting across from them, his arms folded sternly over his chest, Mr. Carter asked for their sides of the story. Tyler launched into an exaggerated tale of self-defense, claiming Malik had attacked him unprovoked. Malik, on the other hand, simply explained that he had acted to protect himself after being cornered. Mr. Carter listened carefully before issuing a warning to both boys. "Fighting isn't tolerated here," he said firmly. "If this happens again, there will be consequences." He then turned to Malik, adding, "I understand you were defending yourself, but I expect you to avoid confrontations moving forward." Malik nodded silently, though he couldn't help feeling frustrated. Avoiding Tyler felt impossible when the older boy seemed determined to provoke him at every turn. As he left the office, Malik noticed several students staring at him curiously, their expressions ranging from admiration to suspicion. For the first time since arriving at Maplewood, he felt like he was under a microscope, and he didn't like it. That evening, Malik confided in his grandfather over the phone. Sitting on the edge of his bed, he described everything that had happened: the bullying, the fight, and the aftermath. His grandfather listened patiently before speaking in his calm, measured voice. "Malik," he began, "you've shown great restraint, and I'm proud of you. But remember, martial arts are not just about protecting yourself. They are also about earning respect. Sometimes standing your ground is necessary, but always do it with dignity." His grandfather's words gave Malik a renewed sense of purpose. The next day at school, he noticed subtle changes in how people treated him. A few students who had previously ignored him now greeted him with hesitant smiles or nods of acknowledgement. Even Sarah from the welcome committee stopped him in the hallway to say, "Hey Malik, heard you handled yourself pretty well against Tyler." "That's impressive." Not everyone was supportive, though. Some kids whispered behind his back, calling him dangerous or weird. Tyler's followers glared at him in the hallways, and a few anonymous notes appeared in his locker, warning him to watch his back. Despite the mixed reactions, Malik refused to let the negativity get to him. Instead, he focused on staying calm and composed, channeling his energy into his studies and spending more time with Emily, who continued to offer quiet encouragement. One afternoon, As Malik sat alone on a bench outside the school, Emily joined him, holding 2 cups of hot chocolate she'd bought from the vending machine. Handing one to Malik, she said softly, "You know, you don't have to face all of this alone. If you ever need someone to talk to or stand up for you, I'm here." Malik smiled faintly, touched by her kindness. "Thanks, Emily. It means a lot." As they sat together, sipping their drinks in companionable silence, Malik realized something important. While the bullying hadn't stopped, he no longer felt completely isolated. People were starting to see him differently, not as the quiet new kid who kept to himself, but as someone capable of handling adversity with grace and strength. And though he knew Tyler wouldn't give up easily, Malik felt ready to face whatever came next. The tension between Malik and Tyler reached a fever pitch over the next few days. Tyler, still smarting from his humiliating defeat in the locker room, became obsessed with reclaiming his reputation. He couldn't stand the whispers in the hallways or the sideways glances from classmates who had started to question his toughness. To Tyler, there was only one way to settle things once and for all: a public showdown. One afternoon during recess, Tyler marched up to Malik as he sat on a bench near the basketball court. His usual swagger was back, though his eyes betrayed a flicker of uncertainty. "All right, new kid," Tyler announced loudly, drawing the attention of nearby students. "You think you're so tough. Let's settle this like real men. One-on-one fight after school today, behind the bleachers. No running away this time." Malik looked up calmly, meeting Tyler's gaze without flinching. For a moment, he said nothing, letting the weight of Tyler's challenge hang in the air. Around them, a crowd began to gather, buzzing with excitement at the prospect of a fight. Some kids cheered Tyler on, while others watched Malik curiously, wondering if he'd accept. Finally, Malik spoke, his voice steady and clear. "I don't want to fight you, Tyler. This isn't going to solve anything." Tyler sneered, clearly trying to provoke him. "Oh, come on. You're not scared, are you? Or are you just too chicken to face me?" Malik stood slowly, his movements deliberate. He wasn't intimidated by Tyler's bravado, but he knew that ignoring the challenge outright would only fuel more rumors and speculation. Still, fighting behind the bleachers, with no supervision, felt wrong. It wasn't just about proving himself, it was about doing the right thing. "I'll meet you," Malik said finally, his tone firm. "But only if a teacher is there to supervise. I'm not breaking any rules." Tyler blinked, caught off guard by the condition. He hadn't expected Malik to agree, let alone set terms. Recovering quickly, he shot back. "Fine. Whatever makes you feel safe, coward." Though his words stung, Malik didn't rise to the bait. Instead, he turned and walked away, leaving Tyler fuming in front of the growing audience. As he moved across the playground, he could hear murmurs rippling through the crowd. Some students admired his calm confidence, while others dismissed him as weak for setting conditions. Either way, the stage was set. Everyone would be watching. Later that evening, Malik found himself pacing in his room, replaying the day's events in his mind. Part of him wished he could simply ignore Tyler and move on, but he knew that wouldn't work. The bully thrived on fear and intimidation, and backing down now would only embolden him further. At the same time, Malik didn't want to stoop to Tyler's level or give him the satisfaction of turning this into a spectacle. His thoughts were interrupted by a knock on his bedroom door. It was his dad, holding 2 mugs of hot tea. "Mind if I join you?" he asked gently. Malik nodded, sitting down on the edge of his bed as his father handed him a mug. After a moment of silence, his dad spoke. "Your mom told me about what happened today. Are you okay?" Malik hesitated before answering. "I don't know, Dad. I don't want to fight him. It's not who I am. But I can't keep letting him push me around either." His dad sighed thoughtfully. "You're right. Fighting won't fix anything, but standing up for yourself doesn't mean you have to throw punches. Sometimes showing people who you really are is enough." The words resonated with Malik. He realized that this wasn't just about defeating Tyler physically. It was about demonstrating strength of character. By facing Tyler head-on, under fair conditions, Malik could prove that he wasn't afraid, but also that he valued respect and discipline over violence. The next morning, Malik approached Mr. Carter, the vice principal, during break. He explained the situation calmly, emphasizing that he wanted to resolve the conflict peacefully but needed supervision to ensure safety. To Malik's relief, Mr. Carter agreed, though he made it clear that both boys would face consequences if things escalated. As word spread that the fight would happen, and that a teacher would oversee it, the entire school buzzed with anticipation. For Malik, the decision brought a strange sense of peace. He knew he couldn't control how others perceived him, but he could control how he responded. And when the time came, he would show everyone exactly what true strength looked like, not through aggression, but through courage, restraint, and dignity. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the schoolyard as students gathered in a loose circle behind the bleachers. Anticipation crackled in the air, with whispers and murmurs rippling through the crowd. Everyone was eager to see how this would play out. Tyler, the self-proclaimed king of the school, versus Malik, the quiet new kid who had somehow managed to hold his own against one of the toughest bullies around. Some kids munched on snacks they'd smuggled from home, while others stood on their tiptoes to get a better view. Even a few teachers lingered nearby, keeping an eye on the scene despite Mr. Carter's presence. Malik arrived first, walking calmly toward the makeshift arena. He wore a plain black t-shirt and jeans, his hands shoved casually into his pockets. His expression was unreadable, but his posture betrayed no hint of nerves. Emily gave him a small wave from the sidelines, her face pale but supportive. Malik nodded slightly in acknowledgement before turning his attention to Tyler, who swaggered into view moments later, flanked by his usual crew. Tyler cracked his knuckles dramatically, trying to look intimidating, but there was a flicker of unease in his eyes. Mr. Carter stepped forward, raising his voice to address the growing crowd. "All right, listen up," he barked, silencing the chatter. "This is not a free-for-all. This is a supervised resolution to a conflict, and if anyone gets out of line, you'll deal with me." "Understood." A chorus of reluctant yeses followed, though many students exchanged skeptical glances. Satisfied, Mr. Carter turned to Malik and Tyler. "You two have 5 minutes to settle this. No cheap shots, no foul play. If I see anything reckless, it ends immediately. Got it?" Both boys nodded, though Tyler rolled his eyes exaggeratedly. As soon as Mr. Carter stepped back, Tyler lunged forward without warning, throwing a wild punch aimed at Malik's face. The crowd gasped, expecting impact, but Malik sidestepped effortlessly, letting Tyler's momentum carry him past. Tyler stumbled slightly, clearly thrown off balance by Malik's speed. "What's the matter?" Tyler growled, spinning around. "Too scared to hit me." Malik didn't respond. Instead, he moved with precision, staying just out of reach as Tyler threw punch after punch, each one missing its mark. The bully's frustration grew with every failed attempt, his movements becoming sloppier and more desperate. Finally, Tyler charged forward like a bull, arms flailing wildly. But Malik ducked under the attack and countered with a swift strike to Tyler's side. It wasn't meant to hurt. It was calculated to disarm and humiliate. In the days following the showdown behind the bleachers, life at Maplewood Middle School began to shift in subtle but significant ways. Tyler, once the self-proclaimed king of the school, suddenly seemed smaller somehow, less confident, less intimidating. He avoided eye contact with Malik in the hallways and stopped sitting at his usual spot during lunch, opting instead for a quieter corner of the cafeteria. His friends, too, kept their distance, no longer laughing at his jokes or egging him on. It was as if the entire dynamic of their group had been shaken. But Tyler wasn't the only one who changed. Slowly, other students started seeing Malik differently. The whispers that used to follow him were now tinged with admiration rather than mockery. Some kids even approached him between classes to ask questions about martial arts. "Is it true you can break boards with your hands?" One boy asked shyly. Another girl wondered, "How long have you been training? Can you teach us something?" Malik didn't seek out the attention, but he didn't shy away from it either. With Emily's encouragement, he agreed to show a few basic moves to a small group of curious classmates after school one afternoon. They gathered on the grassy field near the playground, where Malik demonstrated simple techniques like proper stances, controlled punches, and defensive blocks. He emphasized discipline and respect above all else, reminding them that martial arts weren't about fighting but about building confidence and protecting yourself when necessary. "You don't need to be aggressive to stand your ground," Malik explained patiently, correcting a boy's posture. "It's about staying calm and focused, even when things get tough." The students listened intently, hanging on his every word. For many of them, this was the first time they'd seen Malik open up, and it gave them a new perspective on the quiet new kid who had always kept to himself. By the end of the session, several of them thanked him sincerely, promising to practice what they'd learned. Meanwhile, Tyler's behavior took an unexpected turn. One morning, as Malik walked into homeroom, he found a folded note taped to his desk. Unfolding it cautiously, he read the words scrawled inside. "I'm sorry." There was no signature, but Malik didn't need one to know who it was from. Later that day, Tyler approached him hesitantly after gym class, his face flushed with embarrassment. "I just wanted to say I was wrong," Tyler muttered, avoiding Malik's gaze. "About everything. I shouldn't have treated you like that." Malik studied him for a moment before nodding slowly. "Apology accepted," he said simply. He didn't offer any lectures or demands for promises. It wasn't his style. But Tyler seemed to understand the weight of those 3 words, because he left looking both relieved and humbled. Word of Tyler's apology spread quickly, earning him a mix of reactions from his peers. While some mocked him for backing down, others respected his willingness to admit fault. Over time, Tyler began making amends, not just with Malik, but with others he'd bullied in the past. Though it wasn't an overnight transformation, it was clear that the experience had forced him to confront his own behavior. As weeks turned into months, Malik settled into life at Maplewood more comfortably than he ever thought possible. He formed stronger friendships, especially with Emily, whose quiet support had meant so much to him during his hardest days. Even Sarah from the Welcome Committee invited him to join her group for the annual talent show, where Malik performed a short martial arts demonstration that earned thunderous applause. By the end of the school year, Malik no longer felt like an outsider. He wasn't the most popular kid, nor did he crave the spotlight, but he had earned something far more valuable: respect. And though he knew challenges would always come his way, he faced them with the same grace, strength, and humility that had carried him through his toughest moments at Maplewood. The story ended not with fireworks or fanfare, but with a quiet sense of belonging. A reminder that true strength lies not in defeating others, but in rising above adversity while staying true to yourself.